Hey y'all, how's it going? So I'm trading the S&P 500 futures on a 2000 tick chart. I put my overnight highs here, overnight lows here. We're in this range. It did break out here, but it reacted off of it pretty well before. It clearly tried to retest it here. I put it up here a couple times. I was, switching it up a little bit, but even as more price action formed, I thought it was here. So I left it here, and it ended up kind of acting as a midline for this range here. And so this swing was really just this range high. But anyway, so let's get into this. I'm going to remove this channel at first. So clearly we have this uptrend break, 2 attempts at a new high. We make a new high, break out. Most breakouts fail. We fade back into the range in this downtrend. But after this uptrend has a break and 2 legs to a new high, you can still tell that it's 1 leg up. And then I ended up moving its measured move up to here. And then we're reaching it right now, actually. And so anyway, I ended up drawing the channel for that, and so just like we had that uptrend break, 2 legs to a new high, on a bigger picture we have this uptrend break, 2 legs to a new high. And so at this point we're fading back in, we're getting slight overshoot of this channel, it leads to a break, and so this uptrend here gets this uptrend gets a break, and then price rushes above the EMA. You can't take this failed second entry. It's just right into the overnight high. It's directly into resistance. It's not a good idea. And then we complete the move up. We start pushing lower high. It's into this range. It's just choppy. It's not the best looking lower high. You have this measured move in play. It could make a second attempt higher. The setup isn't that bad looking because it's just a lower high. It doesn't look that bad, but it's the context that matters. So anyway, we push lower, we bounce off the lows again, we push above the EMA, and then we bounce off the EMA again. So now we have the second leg here. So we can, after you get that first leg up here, you can expect a second leg at some point, and we finally get the second leg here. Uptrend break, 2 attempts at a new high, just like we had for the smaller one. It broke out of the overnight high. It's making a double top with this swing over here. And you can get out before those lows. I just wanted to get out before those lows right there. So I like that trade. Even though the measured move technically ticked lower, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just, you can tell it's part of the same 2 legs here. It's uptrend break, 2 legs higher. It doesn't matter if it ticked lower. That's basically just a double bottom. And so we push higher. This trend line is holding. I have this trap here marked as a trap because I feel like a lot of people would probably get trapped into it. It's a lower high, but this trend line is clearly holding. We rushed below the EMA and then immediately rushed back above and then couldn't get above the EMA. So price clearly bounced off of it here and then just bounced right back up. So it's clearly not really accepting the EMA, and you could barely get below it here. It's basically like the EMA is support right here. It's not a good looking entry. That's why I have it marked there as a trap. We push higher here. This is still into the trend line. You don't want to Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to move that. You don't want to take that. Then we have this big push down. Now notice this. So this uptrend here has a break, 2 attempts at a new high, and inside of these attempts we have these corrections, these bearish moves down. But those are really just the corrections in the moves to the new high. Notice how after this uptrend has a break and 2 legs to a new high, only then do we get very strong bearish attempts to fade the range, because it's going to have trouble fading the range while the uptrend's in play. So now that the uptrend is played out with a break and 2 legs to a new high, now it's able to get bigger attempts to fade. And so notice how these shorts right here, these 2 big pushes down, are much stronger than any pushes down in here, and it's only after the uptrend played out completely. So all this stuff, it happens on the tick level, and then you got to zoom out and see what's happening on the bigger level, and that'll help you get to the bigger trades. But anyway, so this I missed. Honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed at how long it took me to notice it, because I think I had to have been out of the room when it happened, or maybe it was just going too fast. Sometimes I'm not as focused as I need to be, but I did not enter this trade, unfortunately. Now, the reason I like it so much is we have this massive push down, 2-legged correction. We know that we could get a second one. When you get a massive push in a direction, you're likely to get a second one if the context is right. And in this case, the context is right, because the uptrend has 2 major attempts at a new high. You can expect the big picture structure, which is the overnight range, that's the biggest in-play structure at this point, because the uptrend played out at this point, you would expect that to win out. And so you can expect a second attempt to fade it. Then you get a triple top, 1, 2, 3. I understand that there's 2 right here, and so some might say 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's really just one swing. It tapped it, slight correction, tapped it, then took off to the other end of the structure. So it's a triple top, big picture, 2 big legs higher. We can expect a second leg down. I love this trade just to take it to the end of the range. It has perfect context for it. So next, we bounce here. We go into this uptrend. I don't think that buying here would be a good idea. You would really just want it to keep, I would want it to just keep plummeting down and then get more shorts, but it does find resistance here. We get this higher low. I wouldn't be taking that. It's not above the EMA, and considering, what I was saying about it reversing strongly, I would not want it to take just a higher low below the EMA. We go into this uptrend here. We have this break. It gets extremely choppy, but we have a new high. There's not really any entry to write it down or anything, but we push lower and then go higher. There's really no entries in here. We can tell that there's a failed breakout of this range right here, but it's inside of this trend line. You don't want to take that. Then this trade I missed again. This one I know for a fact I was not in the room for this one. I don't exactly remember how this went by. I was kind of chaotic this morning, but this one I know I was not in the room for. But I wish that I was, because it is a genuinely good looking trade, but you need to use a limit order on it. Now, here's the trade. Let me explain it. We have this big push higher here. We're finally able to break out of the range. We're finally able to start moving higher, so I put the measured move here because that's clearly where it's taking off from. And so at this point, I know that we have this measured move in play, but this is right here basically a range. It's congestive, it's choppy. I did not want to push it too far into new highs. I would want to use a limit order on it. I did not do that. I was not in the room, unfortunately. So I missed these two, which is annoying because I had missed 2 trades, and then my next trade was a loss. And the most annoying thing about it was I forced the fill. I wasn't even supposed to be filled. Every now and then that's happened recently. I talked about it. I accidentally filled myself before it had even triggered, and it's very frustrating. So this time and the last time that happened, I did not get out of the trade immediately. I just hoped that it would trigger, and then it stopped me out. And then I did re-enter on a better looking entry. And looking back, this entry right here that I kind of accidentally forced my fill on, it doesn't really look as good anyway. Because it's like downtrend here, break, first attempt, and then second attempt, and then it takes off. So I think I should have waited for that in the first place. I probably would have lost that trade even if it did trigger. So that's a straight up not good trade here. I marked it here as a trap. Technically, you wouldn't have gotten filled if you did your order right, like I did not. But even that entry just doesn't look very good if it did trigger. So anyway, I kind of forgot where we were. I kind of skipped around a little bit, I think. Or maybe I didn't. We were right here. So this uptrend did have a break. We are expecting a new high. This short-term downtrend has a break. First attempt, second attempt. I like that trade right there. I wish I didn't take this one. But we push higher. Good-looking area. We start to get congestive. We push below the EMA. It gets a little bit choppy. We push back above. The EMA is kind of flat. We have these lows, highs forming. We're in this range. We clearly have this range right here as well. It's clearly found support there. And then we get to here. We have these 2 legs down. So 2 measured legs down off these lows. We get a good signal bar. I didn't like how we were into all of this right here because it was fading this. So it's like being off of this and then fading it. But I just was afraid that it would act as resistance, being arranged inside of a range. And so this I liked, even though the EMA held us lower. It looked like that wasn't holding very well either. It looked like this range support level was holding stronger than the EMA, because even after the EMA trade triggered here, it's closing all the way back up. And it's clearly rejecting this level. It has a failed second entry, which that isn't really what the trade is based off of. It's mainly just the fact that it is a higher low after these 2 major pushes down with good context, but it is technically a failed second entry. So yeah, I do like this trade. I did like it, and I got out at 18 ticks, 12 tick risk, 18 tick profit, and I was considering lowering it. Well, here's how I was doing it. I had it a little bit lower, and then when this bar closed down right here, I pushed it a little bit higher, because every bar that goes by, you can technically get a little bit more profit if another bar goes by. And so I was able to extend it once, but yeah, so I wanted room to the high just in case of that trend line. Anyway, so here I have another, oh yeah, I forgot to go over this. I have this trap right here marked. So the reason I have this marked here as a trap is we did just have 2 legs down, and then we did hold above the EMA. Now it did end up barely closing back below, but even if you do take it for that reason, it is directly into these lows, which it bounces straight off of. It's just not a great entry. And then here we rush up, it's just a spike up, and then looks like we could have a slightly different channel here, and then it's overshooting. And then, but if you leave it the way it was with that break and new high, it reacts off this channel here. It's clearly just into this resistance or into this support. It's above the EMA. With how bullish it is, you don't really want to be entering short into the EMA. I mean, there's really just no bearishness at all. It's just all up, spike up. The count reset here. It's like this tiny little downtrend move is the only downtrend that's in play at this point, which means that you're competing all of this bullish momentum against this little count reset push lower here. That's nothing. So I put the trend line here, which for a lot of that I had the trend line removed, and then after it took off, I raised the trend line to this level, and then we push higher. It did bounce off of it a third time. We had these couple legs down to it. It had a bad signal bar, and it rushed below, very strongly bearish. Could barely get halfway into the bar, so I didn't like that. The higher low is closing into the trend line already. We push higher here. We get this correction to the EMA. It gets very choppy. The higher low is closing into these highs of what looks like this range. Some of this stuff happened after I was done trading. There was probably 30 minutes before or after I was done trading and making this video. I was making the video a little bit earlier than I usually do. So there was really nothing in here. Breakout pullback alone, that's not enough to take a trade. And then look at that. Literally look at that. People say technical analysis is fake. I hate those people, because look at this. I mean, 2 measured moves that take up the length of the entire day so far, and literally it just bounced directly off of it and is shooting in the other direction. It looks like it might be the short of the day. It could end up being that. And it's like it literally just turned down directly off a measured move. And people say, anyway, I'm ranting now. So we'd push lower here. That's really going to be it for the day. I guess we'll see how the price reacts off this channel here. I'll be in the site later. I'll try to talk to some people. We'll look at what's going on. But yeah, I guess that's going to do it. Yeah, y'all have a good day. See you next time.